Patents are grouped depending on what the device does. So it might not have anything to do with a ceiling fan, but it might be something with a motor and blades that really does the same thing that you're interested in. Those would all be classed together. So if you can figure out what classification code you're interested in, then you can get all of the devices that do that same thing. And it doesn't matter if they do it in the same way or for the same application, but the mechanics behind it will be the same. And there are a couple different systems. The United States is finally going to cooperate with the rest of the world, and it started using the cooperative classification system instead of its own system that has been around since like 1790 or whatever. Unfortunately, in Google Patents, this is another thing I don't like. So once you get down here and try and figure out what the classification codes are, if you click on these, it just takes you to a description of what that code is, which may be helpful. It might be useful to see like where it falls within the grand scheme of things. But I would want to search for these. So I'm just going to copy this. And now if we go all the way back to the top. So if you click on this little gear, you can actually search patents more specifically within Google Patents. So you'll go to the advanced patent search. And from here, you can say, OK, just get rid of anything having to do with a ceiling fan, because I really just want to see the cooperative classification code that I found. Get rid of that. OK, so now there's still way too many results, which is, again, that's just how Google works. If you used a different patent search, like free patents online, when you do this, it gets very refined. And you can really get narrowed in on the patents that only fall within your range. So that's why I tend to not use Google Patents, because it's still kind of quirky like that, whereas some of these other tools, like free patents online, you can do more things with them and get more precise. OK, are there any questions about that? All right. So one more plug for how awesome the libraries are. If any of you are doing research that means you're going to be compiling lots of data, or if any of you apply for grants from government agencies like the DOE, they're starting to have new restrictions about compiling your data in certain ways and making it available to the world as well as your publication. So the libraries do have a team of people that specialize in data management. So before you start just throwing data on a server somewhere, if you want to talk to someone about best practices or how to compile that, or any questions about data organization at all, you can just let me know and I'll direct you to the right people. So we're not just books and journals anymore. We're also data. We're also fun. We're going to have dogs in the library. So you'll see emails about that. So if you like petting dogs. OK, are there any questions about anything that I did or did not show you? Do you have questions?
You have questions for me? And I'll stick around after class a little bit too. Yeah.
How are projects assigned?
So what we're going to do is next class, we'll go over the projects in detail so you have a better sense of what they're going to entail. And then each of you is going to fill out kind of a background card, like what your major is, what your skills are, what grade you are, and your project preference. So then we take all those together and try to fit people to their highest preferences. The projects take about a year to define. That's why I don't have a whole slew of them. I only define as many as we need because there's such a huge amount of effort to defining each and getting like shipping Tata Nanos across the world. It takes a while. So we last year we were pretty good. I think everybody got their first or second choice. So yeah, we'll do our best. Yeah.
Working with partners, do you have to sign NDAs at all, or is it like all?
Working with your partner is fine. The only time we have NDAs, like if you have to talk to somebody outside who would be considered outside disclosure, then you'd want them to sign an NDA. When we have our project presentations, particularly the final one, where you can invite your friends and family to come, if they're from outside of MIT, they need to sign like a quick NDA, and we provide those. But otherwise, like any conversations you have internally to MIT, you don't need an NDA. And talking to your partners about your project, you don't need an NDA.
One thing, can I add something to that? So since you are going to be working with people outside of MIT, one thing that might happen is they'll say, oh, cool, since you're at MIT, can you download all of these articles for me? And hey, can you get these market research reports? Because you can get them for free, and that would be awesome. Don't do that. Like, the resources are absolutely for you to use for your research, and if what people are asking you for is relevant to the research you're doing, then of course, but just randomly distributing information around a company that you're working for is not good, so please don't do that.
Yeah.
How does IP handle?
So these, we're going to have a guy from our technology licensing office give you a more comprehensive discussion about this, but when things are created at MIT by grad students who are typically getting paid to go to MIT, the IP is owned by MIT. But that said, like if you want to go spin off a startup from it, MIT really helps try to make that happen. About half of our projects are full-out corporate-sponsored projects. So they would get first rights to an exclusive right to the IP, but they would have to pay MIT for that license. If they didn't want to pay MIT, then they could, there's some deal where they don't have to pay anything and they can use the IP internally, but they couldn't go commercialize it. Yeah, but the IP is owned by MIT, but that's the standard deal. And it's, I think by and large, it's actually good for us as inventors, because what it means is that if you have something to patent, MIT will pay for the patent. And then you can go start up a company. This is actually happening with one of the class projects last year. I think they're going to go start a company from it. And I don't know, it's debatable if they even have IP. I don't think they filed anything. So they can just go start a company anyway. Yeah. But there's a lot of mechanisms to work in your favor here to help you commercialize things. MIT wants their stuff to be commercialized. Any other questions?
What if you have an idea for a project and you want to take it up?
Unfortunately, I'm not going to fit it in this year. I'd like to hear about it, and maybe it's something we can do next year. Maybe you're the mentor for it next year. But yeah, this year we're full. With the exception, we'll see how many people come back next class, but we have room for one more project with Mahindra if necessary. All right, I think it's time. Yeah. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good weekend. Thank you.